Okay, hello everyone, welcome to the channel again. Today we are going to be making a Axios post request to the Airtable API, and we will make a contact form that we have created for our website JS Social, and we will be using Formik as a form and Yup as the form validation. And we will be adding TailwindUI components such as alert for alerting the Formik error messages, and we will be using a TailwindUI modals also, like when the form submission is successful we will be displaying the successful model, and when the form submission meets with an error, for example unauthorization or anything like internal server error, so we will be covering all of the areas of a form submission, like when there's an error, whether related to our website, whether related to the user, they will be getting an error model like this. If this is successful, they will be getting something like this. So we will be covering a lot in this today's video series. I'm thinking to divide it into 2 or 3, or we will see, because there's a lot of stuff to cover. This is the final version of the project. Okay, so let's jump right in. I'm opening the current project. I'm running the project right now. As I've shown before, this is a Next.js project, which is the framework of React. This is the production website. It's almost the same. So I will basically just summarize what I did. Let's begin with the form, contact form. So I just installed npm iFormik, right? After npm iFormik, I import the important Formik 2 elements. This is the final version of Formik, I guess, because before that they were using props or hooks. Now they were using hooks, now they use components and wrap the form inside of these. So I have importing Formik Form field and error message, and I also installed Yup with npm Yup. I import Yup. So what does Yup do? Well, Yup is basically the validation. Like, it's a hardcore validation, but for now it is just a simple contact form, so our validation is not that hardcore, I would say. We just add required messages, and I will later on display them with this error message component on my page. So let's begin with the basics. I created a variable which containing this Yup object created by these fields. So how we set up a Formik? We first create something, an object variable, like containing all these fields. This is called initial fields. This is something like a state, but this state is managed by Formik. I mean, this is not a React state, this is not use state. As you can see, there is no state, but this is some kind of a Formik state. Like, Formik uses these as a state. So as you would do in the use state, you just give an empty value for them, because this is initial value. You create a validation scheme, right? Then the interesting thing is that normally this is our form. Normally the forms are like this, right? But since we are using Formik's own form, it comes with its own advantages. We change it to the big letter, upper letter form, and we also wrap it into the Formik component. So as you can see, this is wrapped in a Formik component, and inside there's a form. It's like a form inside of a div, right? if we compare to the normal version. Okay, so how we are going to use this Formik? I declare my initial values and I attach this initial values with this, so it takes the values from there. I initiate a validation scheme and I take this validation scheme as its value, and I declare an onSubmit function here. It's an asynchronous function. So when I say values here, this is actually whole of the state, like all values of the state. These are inside of this value here. So then I create something called data. This data is an object and it has an array of records which has a object inside of it with fields name. But why do we use such a thing? This is because Airtable API only accepts like that. Now in this project we will be trying to make a post request to the Airtable, so that is why I created something like this. Otherwise I will just be able to send these values just like that, because it is a already generated object. So why would I bother? I bother because only this type of data is accepted by Airtable. For example, let's jump here. This is our Airtable. I create these values with the same fields here. So when I make a request, it will be accepted. For example, let's go to the API documentation. Okay, so in the API documentation, let's go to the create records. Okay, so it shows me how to make a request. It tells me that, dude, just put them into a data with this type of styling. It says that this. So I just do the same. I create them, and also inside my Formik form, they will be like named according to the. Also, I changed this is a very different situation. Normally, this is an input tag name, but in Formik it gives you something called field. So it is like an input, but Formik's own version, and we change it with the field component. In this way, when I call the name according to the field of an initial value, let's say this is email, and I give name as email, it will be attached to that Formik state. So when I do this, we don't add anything like onChange handler, onChange functions like setState. We don't do that. The Formik field automatically does that for you. So that's a good way of approaching this. Like it's a fast way of creating forms. So you just put that name as the same with the state name, like Formik state name, then boom, when you write something, this Formik state changes. So we just attach the proper names. So we change the inputs as the fields, and we write below them error messages, and then we give error messages as same name as the same Formik state names. So these are the same attached to the first name field of our Formik value state, right? So I think everything is clear. Then we have a lot of ways to use this error message of Formik. For example, I don't know if I close that. Like I just do props rendering here, but you could just do just not include this. I do this because when I return this, render this is a TailwindUI thing. Like this is a TailwindUI code. So I say that when there's an error, if there's an error message inside of it, just render this, just use this inside of the error message. So when there's an error message, it renders this, but if there's no error message, it is empty. For example, when we come here, after the click, if there's an error message appears, it loads the error. So that's basically it. What else? What else? Yeah, we create basically the form like this. Yeah, we fill our data with according to the what the Airtable tells me, right? What Airtable tells me, I do that. So it gives me that make a post request to this API endpoint. Okay, nice. So also it says that make sure that you have authorization, make sure that you have content type application/JSON. Okay, so I create an Axios config. I create headers, which I will be adjusting my configuration here. This key is generated, I put that into the environment variable, so I take it from there. I say that my content type application/JSON authorization, I give my authentication token, then I create an Axios request. So I create an Axios request, I say await, because this is an asynchronous function, right? I make a post request. Also I imported Axios here. So I make a post request to the same URL endpoint that he gives me. Then secondly, I put my data here. This is what I want to send. Be careful because the points are important. Like if you put the Axios config second, this will not work. So you put the data as the second, you put the Axios config as the third, because you want to use this bearer token. Otherwise you would get unauthorized, and I will also show you that. Then this is a tricky stuff. Like I did myself, I didn't look up anywhere. Like this was a good point for me because I thought this to myself, how could I use models? Like I tried to use alert first, like I tried to use window.alert, but it was like how can I say, it was very unstylized. For example, let's try that. Never mind. So when it is successful, you set model true. When it is unsuccessful, you set error model true. What does it mean? So what did I do there? I just go into the Tailwind models. I take this code of here, success code. I created another component inside of my components folder. I named this success model. Then I went to the error model. I took one of these, I put them here. So these are components. I also adjusted them according to my website, the content of the components. So I come to my context us again. So I created two states. One is model, one is error model. Of course you can change their name better, like success model, maybe a better name for this. So I created two states. Then I come here inside of my form at the top, very top. I say that if error model exists, render this component. If model exists, render this component. Why did I do that? Actually, I'm not professional at model. It is my first time, but I completely figured this out myself. Because when you render this component, it takes whole the page already. You don't have to do anything. Like it's like an alert. So when this is being rendered, you don't have to worry about where this code will be. It just takes the whole page already. So it's very good. Also, when this is this state is true, I say render this component. This is what it means. $&, I guess. So when this is true, render this. So I say that in my, of course, I first import the so-called components success model and error model, right? Then I come here. on the promise of returning this Axios post request, I say that if this request of mine is successful, then execute this. I say that set model to true. When the set model is true, I render this component on the page. If this is not true, I say render change the true of this state. When I change that state to true, this is true. This exists now. It is not undefined anymore. So then if the error model exists, then it renders this component. So in that case, when we make a request and the request returns a promise, if it is successful, we will see a successful message. If it is a failure, we will see a failure message. So let's begin. I think let's try it out. This is our web page. This is the contact us. Okay, the TailwindUI alerts work perfectly. The TailwindUI alerts are rendered inside of the Formik error message. As I told you before, this is the TailwindUI code. I could also actually put this into a component. Maybe I probably should, but maybe later. Okay. So let's just go try something. By the way, this is our Airtable. Let's try to delete the rest. There's a lot, so we would not get confused. Okay, so this is an empty Airtable project. We took the details of how to make a post request to this API. Also, if you want to use that, you can go to the Airtable API documentation from here, and you can just check how you can do that. We did what they asked from us. We used this endpoint and URL. We added our authorization bearer token. We added content type. We created our data according to this styling. Then it's time to just try. So I just randomly type something, I click on submit, then it says successfully submitted, thank you for contacting us. So this is basically our success model playing in the front page. So that means our success model works very fine. Then we come to the Airtable, voila, it works very fine. We have the data in our Airtable database, so the post is successful. Let's try something different. I will try to make you show that how the error model will appear. For example, this is my authorization token. If the authorization token is wrong, we should be getting unauthorized 401. Let's try that. I say cake for my K. So my authorization token is cake now. So I don't think Airtable will accept that, right? Let's try that out. Let's fill the stuff again. I just randomly type so we can see the result. I click submit. Boom. It said that error found in form submission. Please contact with our support team via support@GSSocial. It's very good. Because there's no details of the error, because this error is not an unusual thing. For example, you are not able to send the form without actually filling all the fields. Like, you can't send the form like this. So this error is a rare thing. Like, if you see this error, then something is wrong. So if something is wrong, then we suggest them to check with our team, so they may on email, so they may contact with us from another location, like on email, not from the website. So we cover all of the points of a contact form: error, success, fields, validation. Validation shows the required text, how it shows with a cool animation like this TailwindUI component. So everything is properly set up. So this is how we used Formik and Yup as our form validation and fields. We have used Airtable API as our backend, database API, external API. We have used TailwindUI alerts and modals. So that was basically it. Thank you for watching. For next time.